Long, long ago, before many of the world's great empires even existed, there was a land in West Africa. This land was called Mali. Mali sat between two very different worlds. To the north was the Great Sahara Desert. Golden sand, endless and dry. To the south were thick forests, rivers, and hidden treasures. Between these two worlds, something magical happened. Trade. Merchants from the north brought salt across the desert. Salt was precious. In some places, people traded salt for its weight in gold. Merchants from the south brought gold from deep in the earth. Mali sat right in the middle, and whoever controlled this trade, controlled unimaginable wealth. In the early 1300s, a boy grew up in this land. His name was Musa. He was not born to be king. Not at first. His family were rulers, yes. But there were others in line before him. Still, young Musa watched carefully. He watched how gold moved through the markets. He watched how salt caravans crossed the desert. He watched how power worked, who held it, and how they kept it. Musa's family belonged to a ruling line called the Keita dynasty. They were Muslim rulers, and Islam was deeply important in their court. Scholars. Judges. Religious teachers. They filled the palace halls. Musa grew up learning not just about gold and power, but about faith, law, and knowledge. This mattered. It would shape everything he did later in life. Then, everything changed. The king before Musa, some say his brother, some say a relative, left the empire. He sailed away, west, across the great ocean. He wanted to discover what lay beyond the water. He never returned. No one knows exactly what happened to him. Did his ship sink? Did he find new land? Did he simply vanish into the waves? We do not know. But because he never came back, the throne became empty. And in the year 1312, Musa became king. He took the title, Mansa. In his language, Mansa means, king of kings, or emperor. From that day forward, he was known as Mansa Musa. But Mansa Musa did not inherit a small village. He inherited an empire. An empire stretching over rivers, deserts, and cities. An empire that touched modern-day Mali, Senegal, Guinea, Niger, and more. An empire built on two simple treasures, gold and salt. At the heart of this empire were great cities. One city, in particular, would become legendary. Its name was Timbuktu. Timbuktu sat near the Niger River, right at the edge of the desert. It was a perfect meeting point. Camels loaded with salt arrived from the north. Boats loaded with gold arrived from the south. Merchants shouted prices in dozens of languages. Scholars carried books wrapped in leather. Timbuktu was not just rich in gold. It was rich in ideas. Mansa Musa understood something important. Gold alone does not make an empire great. Knowledge does. Faith does. Order does. So he invited scholars to his court. He built mosques. He supported schools where students studied law, mathematics, and astronomy. Under his rule, Timbuktu grew into one of the greatest centers of learning in the entire world. Meanwhile, gold from Mali flowed outward. It traveled north across the desert on the backs of camels. It reached North Africa. It reached Europe. It reached the Middle East. Some historians believe that during Mansa Musa's reign, Mali produced almost half of all the gold in the entire world. Let that sink in for a moment. Almost half the world's gold. Coming from one empire. Ruled by one man. But gold was only the beginning of the story. Mansa Musa had a dream. A dream that would take him across deserts, into strange cities, and into the pages of history forever. He wanted to travel to the holy city of Mecca. He wanted to complete the pilgrimage every faithful Muslim hopes to make in their lifetime. But Mansa Musa would not travel like an ordinary pilgrim. He would travel like the richest man the world had ever known. And in the year 1324, his extraordinary journey would begin. To understand Mansa Musa's wealth, we must understand his empire's greatest secret. That secret was trade. Not just any trade. Trade in two of the most valuable things in the medieval world, gold and salt. Let's start with salt. Today, salt is cheap. You can buy a bag at any store for almost nothing. But long ago, salt was rare in certain parts of Africa. People needed salt to survive. To preserve food. To stay healthy in the hot climate. In some regions south of the Sahara, salt was so rare and so valuable, that people traded it pound for pound with gold. Imagine that. A block of salt, a block of gold. Equal in value. That is how precious salt was. Now, where did this salt come from? Deep in the Sahara Desert, there were salt mines. One of the most famous was in a place called Tagaza. Workers cut slabs of salt directly from the desert ground. These slabs were loaded onto camels. Then began a long, dangerous journey across the sand. Caravans of camels, sometimes hundreds of them, crossed the desert together. The journey could take weeks. The sun was brutal. Water was scarce. Sandstorms could appear without warning. Many travelers did not survive the crossing, but those who did carried something priceless. The camels arrived in the great trading cities of Mali, Timbuktu, Gao, Jen. There, something remarkable happened. The salt from the north met the gold from the south. Now let's talk about the gold. South of Mali's great cities, closer to the forests and rivers, gold was hidden in the earth. Local miners dug it out, often from riverbeds and shallow pits. This gold did not come from Mali's rulers directly. In fact, this is a fascinating detail. The Mansa, the king, did not personally own the gold mines. Instead, local communities controlled the mining. But the king controlled something even more powerful. He controlled the trade routes. He controlled the taxes. He controlled the markets where gold was bought and sold. This was clever. By taxing the gold as it moved through his empire, Mansa Musa grew fantastically wealthy, without ever touching a single mine himself. Merchants came from the north, from cities like Cairo, Fez, and Tripoli. They brought salt, cloth, and goods to trade. They left with saddlebags full of gold dust and gold nuggets. Mali's rulers taxed every transaction, every camel that entered, every camel that left. Gold flowed through Mali like a river. And Mansa Musa stood at the center, controlling the current. But there was something else. Something just as important as gold. Mansa Musa did not hoard all this wealth for himself alone. He used it to build. He used it to attract scholars, architects, and religious teachers to his empire. He used it to make Timbuktu one of the most respected cities in the world. Picture this. Grand mosques rising from the desert sand. Libraries filled with handwritten manuscripts. Students traveling from far away just to study in Mali's universities. All of this, funded by gold and salt. By the time Mansa Musa had ruled for over a decade, his empire was legendary. Word of Mali's wealth spread, slowly at first, through merchants and travelers. They told stories in Cairo, in Tripoli, in cities across North Africa. Stories of a kingdom where gold was so common, that ordinary people wore gold jewelry every day. But these were just stories. Rumors. Legends. The rest of the world had never truly seen Mali's wealth with their own eyes. That was about to change. Because Mansa Musa was preparing for a journey that would show the entire world exactly how rich his empire really was. For a Muslim ruler, this decision was deeply personal. Every Muslim who is able is asked, at least once in their life, to make this journey. It is called the Hajj. It is one of the most sacred acts a person can perform. But for Mansa Musa, this was not only a religious journey. It was something more. It was a chance. A chance to show the world who he really was. Think about it from his point of view. He ruled an empire most of the world had never seen. Merchants had heard rumors of Mali's gold. But rumors are just words. Mansa Musa wanted the world to see his wealth. To feel it, to remember it. So he began to plan. And this was not a simple plan. This was one of the largest journeys ever organized in medieval history. First, he needed people. Not just a few servants. Not just a small group of guards. He gathered thousands. Some historians say 12,000 people traveled with him. Some say the number was much higher, perhaps 60,000. We cannot know the exact number today. But we know this, it was enormous. Who were these people? Soldiers, to protect the caravan from bandits and danger. Servants, to cook, clean, and care for the royal household. Scholars, to represent the wisdom of his empire. Musicians, to fill the air with music wherever they traveled. And his wife, Inari, who also made the journey with her own attendants. Next, he needed animals. Camels, to carry people and goods across the desert. Horses, for the soldiers and nobles to ride. And here is something remarkable. Historians say his caravan may have included nearly 100 camels, carrying gold alone. Not gold coins. Not gold jewelry. Raw gold. Gold dust. Gold bars. Enough gold to make an entire journey feel like a moving treasury. Then came the clothing. Fine silk, imported from far away. Rich, colorful fabrics that shimmered under the desert sun. Mansa Musa wanted every person in his caravan to look magnificent. Because they were not just travelers. They were representatives of Mali's greatness. Preparations took time. Careful time. Routes had to be planned. Water sources had to be identified across the desert. Cities along the way had to be contacted, so the caravan could rest and resupply. Mansa Musa also thought carefully about something else. Generosity. He decided that wherever his caravan passed, he would give gifts. Gold to the poor, gold to religious leaders. Gold to local rulers who welcomed him. He believed that true wealth was not something to hide. True wealth was something to share.